But over the years, I've noticed that if built correctly, gone to a lot of conferences. I've been lucky now and again to be asked to speak at some. It's amazing how many of the same faces I see at conferences, right? And I think that that's such a disservice, and I'm always impressed when an agency takes, their lead scheduler or a different person in their organization that's an office staff member and brings them with them to those conferences to be really exposed to that level of learning. It's not just the sessions, but learning how to network in the space. I think national conferences are probably the safest, right? Because at a state conference, people are worried about people poaching people, right? I mean, we've all got that like little bit of insecurity. But I think if you fly them across the nation somewhere else, and one, it's a reward system for them, right? And then two, it makes them feel like you value them, in my opinion, as a true, they're right there as your right hand, left hand, whatever it looks like. And the reality is that for them, the more feeling that they can get. I see Connor in the chat had said, what happens if, within an organization, you want to have a growth mindset, but there's not really room always for promotion or moving up in the organization. I have to tell you, the whole idea and concept of a hierarchy in an organization is something that's probably we're going to see as time goes is going to die, slowly. And what I mean by that is org charts are getting flatter, and they really are. And I think it's because of one, the capabilities that individuals have today, the level of automation that's been brought to a lot of the platforms. I think technology, as we all know, I mean, even scheduling software, it's trying to do the work for us so that we don't need as much of that. I think what we'll end up seeing is more supervisors and managers that are teams of one in many ways. They're responsible for a subset. If I had to be forward looking, I would say, Connor, just to your point, I'm not sure I would obsess about titles for an individual to move up in the company. I think it has more to do with one, them feeling respected, that they've earned, knowledge to a certain level, but two, creating a direct line of control or influence between them and something that is a major goal for the company as an outcome. It can be cash, it can be profit, it can be, territory or geography growth, it can be capability, who knows, whatever it is. But the more direct that line of influence goes, I don't think this is as somebody who straddles the line, by the way, I don't think this is a millennial mindset. I think this is just the future. I think in the workspace, people want to know how and where are they making impact. The growth and advancement of that, in my humble opinion, is we should be saying that those are the most valuable people in our organization anyway, knowing that the org chart's going to get flatter. To me, I'll give you a prime example. One of our branch managers in our company, I look at them as responsible for 1.2 to 1.5 million in revenue. And I want them to be as resourceful and responsible for that line of revenue as possible as an individual. We might help them, but where we help them, for example, when we process payroll, or maybe we help them with, technology on the back end, or whatever we're doing as a support, we have really flipped our org chart upside down, and we're saying, well, we work for them. And I think that's a powerful move. If you can look at them as being that important, one, it will take education and an opportunity to teach them and build them up to keep getting there. I also think that growth and advancement is monetary. I mean, to some extent. Now, I also think that people, if you can make that direct line more reasonable, people will do more if they know that there's an incentive and opportunity out there for them. This is probably the healthy seesaw that exists with it. We've had people in our organization, Miriam, kind of bring their own interest to the table, right? So we had somebody from our leadership in what we call people services, essentially it's HR, say, hey, there's a group out there that's holding a conference that's very driven and focused on human resources, diversity, inclusion, education, or whatever these topics are. Our model has been for them to run towards that. We want to pay for it. We want them to go get engaged in it. Not everybody is going to have a ton of content out of going to the blank association conference every year, because what they do is very specific to their work, or they can get better education someplace else. And a great place to start, by the way, is industry stuff. I mean, if there's an HR professional in any one of these companies, if they're not a member of SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Managers, right, it makes you go, gosh, we're just missing the boat on a very simple thing that's there. Get them involved there. There's education and training just in that little vertical all by itself, and it's very topical. And they're going to be a better individual for servicing. If you have a finance and accounting driven person within your team, it's another example of there are, I'm going to butcher the acronym, but it's basically a national association for accountants and individuals in that space. Same thing, encourage their membership in it. The company should pay for their membership for the year. And by encouraging that kind of activity, I think that is how a company can really embrace growth and development. It doesn't have to be these big things like, oh, we are going to do tuition reimbursement for you to go get your MBA from Purdue. It doesn't have to be that big. And I think people sometimes think unless it's this big overt action, it's not going to count.